Thank you, Master Dennis. Thank you so much for your time. Today, we'll talk about the three character classics. In Chinese, it's called San Zi Jing. It's the same word as the sutra by the Buddha, like Wu Liang Shou Jing, Infinite Life Sutra. It's the same word, Jing. But in this case, this is not from the Buddha. It's from the Chinese scholars and so on.
Yeah. All right.
Number one, okay, in Chinese, it's a beautiful thing. Almost all the Chinese people know this. They probably, like me, only know the first few words. And it goes, 人之初，性本善，性相近，习相远。苟不教，性乃迁。昔孟母，择邻处. So just now I read four of them, and each one has three characters from the beginning and three characters in the second phrase, and that's one line. So there are 80, 85, I'm not sure how many lines, but that's pretty much it. And my father said since he was a kid, he actually memorized a lot of this stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I only know like the first two lines. That's it. And the rest I don't know. And I really regret it. I really regret it because in all these decades of my life, I would have benefited and made a lot less mistakes if I had learned the guideline for the youth, the one we did last Friday night, Los Angeles time, or Saturday morning, Munich time. So this is something similar, but this is more profound. This is more like the environment, everything about around you, the history, the past. This is more like that. Last week, we're just teaching to the young people.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first one says, humans at birth are naturally good. Their natures are similar, and their habits become different. Second line, if negligently not taught, their nature deteriorates. And the right way to teach is to focus. And that's why my father said, yeah, I memorized all these guidelines for the youth, and I never knew what they meant. Like when I memorized them, I was just la 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 la. But then as the years went by, I began to understand a little bit more. So he wasn't really taught per se, properly. Formerly the mother of Mencius, who is related to Confucius, chose a neighborhood. When her child would not learn, she cut the threads from the loom. The neighbors were, I don't remember what it was, the butcher or some kind of a bad environment, so her mother kept on moving 3 times. And then when her child refused to learn, she was weaving some threads and some clothes. She took the scissors and cut it and said, hey, look, this is not the way for you to learn. So they condense all of these teachings into very cryptic words.
Yeah.
Okay. Dang Yuansan is a person, had the right method. He taught 5 sons, each of whom raised the family reputation. So there's a way, there's a Tao of being a father, there's a Tao of teaching. Like Mencius' mother knew how to teach him. That's the point they are trying to make here. To raise kids without teaching is the father's fault. In Chinese, 养不教，父之过. I don't know where the mother is, but this is just the ancient text. To teach without severity is the teacher's laziness. If the teacher does not really focus. If a child does not study, it is improper. If he does not learn while young, what will he do when old? Jade that has not been polished, number 7, cannot be used. Person that has not studied cannot know righteousness. It's just saying, and that's why Confucius said, to establish a nation, citizenship, and military, you must educate first. Person who has not studied cannot know righteousness. That's why it's very, very important to teach, especially when they are very young, the proper, correct principles. He who is the son of a man when he is young should engage teachers and friends and practice etiquette. And I think that's what we studied last weekend, last Friday PST, Pacific Standard Time, how to behave properly with politeness. Sean, at 9 years old, could warm up his parents' bed. He knew his parents would be cold, so he would go lay down in the bed to warm it up. And filial piety, meaning respect and show support and kindness to the parents, should be carried out. Long, these are historical stories. At age 4, he gave the bigger pear to his brother rather than keeping himself. And to behave as a younger brother towards elders is one of the first things to know, to have respect. Number 11, begin with filial piety and fraternal love, then see and hear, learn to count and learn to read. So the basic is love, respect, then you do your math, you do your English. So from 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000, and 1,000 to 10,000. So the little kids are memorizing this as a nursery rhyme, as a song. The three forces are heaven, earth, and man. The three luminaries are sun, moon, and stars. So in Chinese it would be 三才者天地人，三光者日月星. The three principles, duty between sovereign and subject, the ruler and the people, love between father and child. When they say father, they really mean parents and children. Harmony between husband and wife. So these are the three principles, very important. And also, notice there is a duty from the king to the people, and also from the people to the king. Kind of like what Jesus said, give what's to Caesar, give what to God, what belongs to God. We speak of spring, summer, and we speak of fall and winter. The 4 seasons revolve without end. So this is teaching common sense to the children. We speak of north, south, east, and west. The 4 directions depend on the center. Water, fire, wood, metal, and earth. The 5 elements have their origin in numbers. Number 18. Benevolence, duty, propriety, wisdom, and truth. These 5 virtues must not be compromised. Number 19. Rice, fine millet, beans, wheat, glutinous millet, and common millet. People eat these 6 grains. So this is like common sense, or what you eat. Horse, ox, sheep, chicken, dog, pig. These 6 animals are those which people raise. Joy, anger, grief, fear, love, hate, desire. These are the 7 emotions. Gourd, earthenware, leather, wood, stone, metal, silk, bamboo yield the 8 musical sounds. Great-great-grandfather, great-grandfather, grandfather, father, and self and child, child and grandchild. From child, grandchild, great-grandchild, and great-great-grandchild, these 9 generations make up your family. In the olden days, when somebody made a mistake in the family, they killed 9 generations. So these are the 9 generations, yes. They say when you want to cut the grass, you have to remove the roots. Otherwise, they're going to come back and revenge. And you will see, as we continue in this 三字经, the 3 character teachings. Kindness between father and child, harmony between husband and wife, friendliness from elder brothers, respect from younger brothers, precedence between elders and younger, support between friends, respect to the rulers, loyalty from the subjects. These 10 obligations are the same for all. All of us should have this kind of righteousness. When teaching the young and uninitiated, there should be explanation and investigations. Carefully teach the old texts, the ancient teachings from the sages. Clearly identify sentences and paragraphs. Those who would learn must have a beginning. When basic schooling finished, they go on to the 4 books. So now we're getting into more advanced teachings. Number 30. The Analects is the teaching by Confucius. In 20 chapters, the various disciples recorded the wise sayings of Confucius. Mencius wrote, 7 chapters on the road to virtue, benevolence, and righteousness. Author of Changeless Way was Kongji. The way means correct, and changeless is like meaning the principles. I kind of changed the translation and I ran out of time, but you get the point. Author of The Great Learning was Zen. Its teachings range from self-development to ruling the nation. Classic of filial piety. Filial piety is the kindness you show to your parents because you are related by blood and they are older than you are, and we are one body, one physical, one flesh. Our body came from their body. Classic of filial piety mastered 4 books read. Then after you master the classic of filial piety, and after you read the 4 books, then you can study the 6 classics in that sequence. The Book of Poetry, Book of Documents, Book of Changes, Rites of Zou, Book of Rites, and the Spring and Autumn Annals are the 6 classics that should be learned and analyzed. Liangshan Gui Yang, Duke of Zou, and the 3 systems, they are in the Book of Changes. So if you do a YouTube or Google Book of Change, you will see it's used for predicting the future and so on, for calculating when you should be married, what's a good day, all that stuff. Nation's principle, a nation's plan, minister's roles, emperor's announcements, proclamation of war, and emperor's orders are explained in the Book of Documents. The Duke of Zou wrote the rights of the Zou, defined 6 classes of officials, thus giving form to the government. So it's like political science. So he's talking about what the person should learn. The elder and the younger Dai, they wrote the commentaries on the Book of Rites. They published the sages' words and defined ceremonies and music. All this tradition and lineage, history, and so on are documented in these documents. State culture, minor and major odes, and the praises, 4 sections of the Book of Poetry. They are worthwhile to recite. Book of Poetry faded when Zou, Confucius, wrote Spring and Autumn Annals. So as the dynasty changed, as different people became the king and the emperors, things changed. And the annals contain praises and criticism to distinguish the good from the evil of the different dynasties and different kings. The 3 commentaries of the Spring and the Autumn era, Gongyang, Zuo, and Guliang. When the classics are clear to you, then you read the philosophers, pick out the essentials, and remember their facts. The 5 philosophers, there are Su Yang, Wei Zhuangzi, Laozi, and Zhuangzi. These are the 5. Master the sutras and the Confucius teachings. Read the histories. Examine the succession of the dynasties. Know how they started and ended. From herder, the name of a king. Farmer, name of a king. To the yellow emperor. People adored the 3 emperors. Tang and Yu, called the 2 emperors. One abdicated after the other, and theirs was called the age of prosperity. Xia had Yu, Shang had Tang, Zhou had Wen and Hu. They are the 3 kings. So this is like history. Xia passed the throne to his son. The family owned the nation. After 400 years, Xia ended. Tang ended Xia, of course in warfare and killing, created Shang. After 600 years, Zhou destroyed Shang. King Wu of Zhou killed Zhou. Zhou ruled 800 years. Then there was the longest dynasty. So after this, next week, as you continue to have time, if you have time, we will go through the guiding principles for ancient China, the principles of government, principle of ruling of ancient China.
Yep.
So we're going to go into more details here. Number 52. Zhou relocated the capital eastward. Then the control over the princes loosened. Princes brandished spears and shields. Basically, they were fighting amongst each other. And the wandering lobbyists prevailed. So the counselors, advisors were all over the place. Began with the spring and autumn period. It's a period of Chinese history. And ending with the warring states period. 5 feudal lords ruled. 7 feudal states arose. Qing of Yin clan started to unify all the states. Qing, that's why all the Chinese people are called Chinese. In Iran, we will call Qin, C-H-I-N. That's named after this dynasty. The Qing dynasty unified all the states. The throne passed for 2 generations. So the Qing dynasty, even though they united China, they only passed 2 generations, then they finished. Because they were very mean and atrocious, killed a lot of people. They are the people who buried the scholars and burned the books. That's the Qing dynasty. But then they gave the name Qini, Chinese. Gaozi rose and the Han dynasty ruled until the reign of Xiaoping, when Wang Man usurped the throne. So Wang Man came in and killed the old king. Guangwu rose and founded the Eastern Han. After 400 years, ended with the Emperor Shang. 57. Wei, Shu, and Wu fought for dominance, called the Three Kingdoms. It lasted until the Tu Jing dynasty, followed by the Song and Qing, and then the Liang and Chen. They are the southern dynasties with the capital in Jingling, which is Nanjing. Northern dynasties of Wei and Yuan split into east and west. Wu Huan took over west, and Gao took over east. History. Finally, under the Sui, the empire was united but perished due to his wanton and ruler's son. His son did all kinds of bad things, so he didn't even pass 1 generation. The Tang emperor raised the righteous army, ended the disorder of Sui dynasty, and established the foundation for his dynasty. 20 times the throne was transmitted in a period of 300 years. So the Tang dynasty went 300 years with 20 kings. That's not bad. The Liang destroyed it and the dynasty changed. Liang, Tang, Qing, Han, and Zhou, called the 5 dynasties, each replaced for a reason. The fiery Song arose and received resignation of the Zhao. 18 times the throne was transmitted, then the north and the south battled. 65. Liao and Jing each had an emperor. Yuan extinguished the Jing and finished the Song era. Yuan dynasty are the Mongolians. They are the Yuan. Yuan controlled huge territory, exceeding the last territory. The Mongolians, Genghis Khan type people, right? So they have big territory. After 90 years, their era was over. Taizu is a person's name. He rose up, he set up the great Ming dynasty. He called himself Hongwu. The capital was at Jingling, which was Nanjing. Chen Zhu moved the capital to Yanjing, which is Beijing. 16 generations until it ended with Chou Zhang. The power of the eunuchs unchecked. Men were castrated, so they could work in the palace, so they cannot mess with the palace girls, the king's concubines. So they were just had too much power and they were going crazy, and the bandits were flourishing like the forests. So Li Chuang revolted, and people were burning the palaces, and they called it divine artifacts. I really don't know for sure. So they went into the palace, and the king committed suicide. The great ancestor of the Qing received destiny's call. Peace in the 4 directions achieved great stability. The histories are complete. Dynasty rule and disorder are recorded so we can understand the prosperity and decline. Read the history books, examine the records, connect the ancient with the present, and you will be as close as an eyewitness. Recite them with the mouth, examine them with your heart. learn in the morning and in the evening, 74. Formerly Zhongni took Xiang Tu for his teacher. The ancient sages were virtuous and studied diligently. Grand Secretary Zhao studied the Analects by Confucius. He, although already an official, studied diligently, splitting reeds and weaving them as notebooks, cutting bamboo slips and write on them. They had no paper, yet they knew how to learn. One scholar tied his head to the roof beam here, so in case he would fall asleep, he would wake up. And another one poked his side, with like a nail to keep himself awake. They were not taught this, but they took the initiative to toil hard work. Another one put fireflies in a bag, while the other used the glare from the reflection of the moonlight from the snow so he could study. Although their families were poor, they studied unceasingly. One carried firewood, another shepherd hanged books from the horns of the sheep, or the cow or the buffaloes, so they could study. Although they toiled with their bodies, they overcame their hardships. Su Laoguan, at 27, began to show his energy and study the books, meaning very late already. When already old, he regretted his delay. The young, focus early. Liang Han, at 82, took the imperial exam, came out first among many scholars. After he succeeded, everybody called him exceptional. Like them, the young should set goals. Ying, at 7 years old, could compose poems. Me, at 7 years old, could write poetry on playing chess. They were clever. People lauded their rareness. Young students learn from them. Lauded means to praise, to applaud. Cai Wenji could evaluate a lute, some kind of a flute, a musical instrument, from its sound. Si Da-yung could compose poems. These girls, they were quick and clever. Hey boys, be vigilant and work hard. In the Tang Dynasty, Liao Yang, when they were 7 years old, was rated a child prodigy and appointed corrector of texts. He, although a child, was already a government official. Like them, young students should exert yourself and concentrate. 90. Those who work like them will succeed as they did. The dogs guard the night. The rooster proclaims the dawn. If negligently you do not learn, how are you human? The silkworm produces silk. The bees make honey. If one does not learn, what is the use of being human? When young, study. When grown up, perform. Serve the sovereign above. Benefit the people below. Make a name for yourselves. Honor your father and mother. Shine light on your ancestors. Bring prosperity to your descendants. People bequeath to their children chests full of gold. I teach children to focus on learning. Diligence has merit. Playing endlessly has no advantage. Guard against it. Exert your strength. And that is altogether 96. So it's 96 lines. Each line has 12 characters. So you can memorize this as a child in 2 weeks if you keep on singing it as a song. And that's the three San Zi Jing, the 3 character sutra or the 3 character teachings. Anything you want to say, Maestro Dennis, before I turn off the recording?
Thank you very much, Master.
Thank you, Master Dennis.